Hey. So I am Samantha Adams, and I would like to welcome you to our Counterpoise podcast. I'm also here joined with our other two co-hosts. You guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Everett Stevenson, one of the co-hosts of the Counterpoise podcast.
And I'm Malik Foster, and your last and final co-host for the Cowboys podcast. And today we're talking about Black exceptionalism and how it affects the Black community to this day. I'd rather cue up this video, and we're going to react to it and share our thoughts with you all.
The expression Black excellence. I despise it.
All right.
For me, Black excellence is like my mom who barely graduated high school, had 3 kids by the age of 23, who never went to college and just was able to survive. I think our version of Black excellence is rooted in like what white people consider as successful. I am a Black queer activist, and so I have a lot of opinions about a lot of different things. We are excellent too, right? So it's not to say it's either or, but I think the versions that we see of us is a part of who we are. That's just something I just truly believe. People say to me, you don't have to say everything that's on your mind. And I'm like, you're lucky I don't. I'm not contrarian for contrarian's sake. I just want us to think differently about who we are as people.
Cheers to that. Yeah, cheers to that.
I actually really hate.
All right, so the
Yeah.
oh, my bad. No, that was one of the clips from a recent TV show. That's I think that's airing somewhere in like Marcus Vineyards. I think is the name of the show. Summertime in Marcus Vineyards, I believe. But I think the clip was one that was really interesting, one which, kind of framed the conversation for this thing, which was, Black excellence and how do we describe it and how should we subscribe to it, right? If at all. I think, he made some real interesting points at looking at how, Black excellence doesn't necessarily need to be defined by what we were looking at, as far as designing as exceptionalism. It could just be, someone doing the right thing, for their people, you being able to put, like he said, for his mother to put a roof over the head for them, for her to be able to provide for them, knowing the limited circumstances that she came from was excellence. You know what I'm saying? It was just as excellent in his mind as, Jordan winning 6 rings or something like that. And I think that's a great conversation because it gives the power to the people and allowing people to understand that you don't have to look outwards to find, success. You can find excellence within your own life by, doing things that you feel like you should be doing and overcoming the obstacles that you have in your own life.
So I don't agree with him at all. I think that the reason why he hates the term is because he looks at the term Black excellence or even Black exceptionalism as almost like a participation trophy, right? Like, that's not it. Just because you made it so far means it's Black excellence. And I don't think that that's what Black excellence is at all. I think to understand let me take it back. When we look at where we come from as Black Americans in this country, and we're talking about slavery and we're talking about Jim Crow and all of the things that have been placed that have been put in place to limit our ability to succeed and grow and be successful in this country. I think that when you're talking about Black excellence, you're talking about overcoming the boundaries that have, or kicking down walls, doors, whatever, breaking glass ceilings, whatever term you want to use, that some people have had to do in order to make it to a specific place of success, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody like his mom, who didn't go to college, but did everything she could to make sure that there was food on the table, she succeeded in that. It doesn't mean that she's not excellent, but that's not what the term Black excellence and Black exceptionalism is. Let's break it down. To be exceptional means to be set aside, right? It means to be put, you're not with the group. And so when you look at Black people as a whole, we continue to grow. As a whole, we continue to flourish. As a whole, we find new ways to remind the world of how amazing we are as a people, right? But when you're talking about Black excellence, you have to recognize that those that fall within that category fall into an exceptional category. They're an exception to the rule. That's what that means. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're better than anybody else. It just means that they've overcome certain things, whether it was handed to them, whether they had to fight their way to get there. They've overcome a certain level of things to attain this exceptional. And so I think that it's important to recognize that when you say you are operating your Black excellence, that just means you're a Black person who has done something exceptional. And I think that people really should take a step back and recognize that, because just like his mom did all the things that she needed to do to provide for her family, there's people that do that all the time. You see what I'm saying? Those are the necessities, and even if she had to bust her behind to make sure it got done, she did what she had to do. And so it's not to say that what she did was unimportant. It was very important, and she worked her behind off in it, and it's important to recognize that she did her thing. But it's not the same thing as exceptionalism, because what she had to do sounds more like survival than exceptionalism to me.
And see, that's where I would push back too, because in some cases, I think surviving is an exceptional feat considering the circumstances that you may be facing. And, not necessarily knowing exactly where she grew up or how she grew up, but hearing some of the things that he was just stating, maybe not having a formal education, having multiple kids at a young age, it would seem as though she might have had to find ways to, like you said, survive, but at the same time, find a way for her to survive, provide, and, continue to fight through it. That's the part where people can say that's where the exceptionalism lies, because, while, the standard is that you should have a house and you should have a life, everybody can't meet that standard. I think, and even saying like, okay, just because a person is able to do, or just because a person is able to, put a roof over their head, they're not excellent because that's what we're expected to do. I would push back a little bit on that, because I think that can kind of like minimize things and some people may have to come from certain feats for that task alone to be something that they should be able to hang their hat on and say, you know what, hey, look what I was able to do. And that's why I feel like, us having this discussion of exceptionalism being something that's viewed as something that is monumental or less obtainable from maybe say the average, I think that tanks the view of it, because it makes it only seem as though we should only see it like if you can only do such extraordinary things that we'll put you into this category. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that we should give everybody their flowers who are deserving of such.
I think that as Black people, we're all deserving, right? Because as Black people, we overcome things every single day that other people don't have to deal with, don't have to fight, regardless if you find yourself in an exceptional position with a high accolades or whatever, right? And being able to survive is commendable. But I think that surviving versus overcoming are two different things. You see what I'm saying? I think that although you're supposed to survive, you're supposed to put food on the table, you're supposed to take care of your children, you're supposed to do those things. Everybody has to do that, regardless if you're Black, white, green, purple, or yellow. That's what survival is. You see what I'm saying? And I think that it doesn't mean that what she did wasn't important. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that what she did wasn't important as far as taking care of you have kids, they're your responsibility to take care of. If people choose not to take care of their children, that's telling about them. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that when we're talking about exceptionalism versus just doing what you're supposed to do, I think, yes, for Black people, it is much harder in this country to be able to just do the things that you need to do. You see what I'm saying? It is absolutely harder. But being the exception to the rule requires more. And I think that when you're talking about Black excellence and Black exceptionalism, the requirements, like, all right, boom, all three of us are lawyers. People will look at all three of us and be like, Black excellence, right? Why? Because there's things that we did and had to overcome that our counterparts didn't do, whether they went to law school with us and finished and didn't take the bar or didn't pass and gave up, whether they went to law school with us and didn't finish at all, whether they never made it to law school. Maybe they didn't finish college. You see what I'm saying? Or they finished college and they chose to do something else, or people that didn't finish high school. Every stage of our life, we've encountered people that have made different choices out of necessity. For some of them, it's not. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people that like, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that there's levels to it, right? And although I do believe that it's commendable, it is absolutely commendable to fight that fight through that struggle and still be able to provide for your family and survive and all that is absolutely commendable. You definitely deserve your flowers for doing that. I'm not trying to take that away, but I think that that's not the same thing as Black excellence. That's all I'm saying. You see what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? I actually kind of agree with you saying, because I think, what he's saying is, we have to change the meaning of exceptionalism. And I agree with you, like a mom having some kids working and providing because she's a single mom isn't exceptional. I mean, yeah, if you're not in a two-parent household, you got to provide for your kids, provide and protect your kids. That's a normal thing. And I think, you got to go into the meaning and definition of exceptionalism, exceptional, right? And it's exception, which means, outside a normal thing. So like you mentioned, the profession, like not everybody, it's not normal for, especially Black people, to be in certain fields and professions like lawyers, doctors, other professional positions. So that's more of a exceptional thing, as opposed to, oh yeah, I had some babies and I provide for them, like that's not an exceptional thing. That's just normal. Right. And I think another point that he made is he talked about success. He said, I don't want, Black people to have the same thinking about success as white people. But I think most people have a similar thinking of success, whether you're white, Asian, or whatever. I think people could kind of recognize success. It's like everybody recognizes men and women who have achieved a level of educational, financial, cultural achievement that's deemed successful, or whatever, scientific, et cetera, successful. I think everybody's within the same spectrum of success. Yeah, one person might deem like, oh, freedom or something like that's successful, but as a group, most people would deem like, hey, if you're successful in your career or your endeavor or whatever you're trying to do, that's a successful. Because I think there's a personal success and then there's like, group think success. And I think as far as a group think, as far as most people think, is similar in terms of successful. So I mean, I disagree with him there. Like Black people are like just too attached to white people to know what's successful. I think we know what successful is. I think everybody kind of knows that. I don't think that's like a remnant of slavery thinking, although our level of thinking about success is going to be intertwined with that. So yeah, I'm finished on my thoughts on that little clip. E, you got another clip you want to play?
Yeah, I do. And while I hear you guys' point and everything, and I do agree, that there is a space that we should hold people's achievements where we can rank them based off of, the level of severity or the challenges that they've had to overcome in order to kind of rank it. But I think when you do that, you kind of fall short on, passing judgment on someone's because based off of maybe the decisions that they have been able to do. While I agree, being able to overcome certain things, like such as, attaining certain credentials in life, and allowing yourselves to even be in those doors, to get into those spaces, the things that you would have to overcome in order to do that are challenges. But I think everyone faces challenges, and everyone faces their challenges. They have to deal with them on the levels that they're dealing with them on. And for that reason alone, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you can sit there and say, oh man, your challenges is a lot harder than somebody else's just because. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's still a challenge for each person. You know what I mean? And that makes it at the base level the same thing. And I think that's something that we're going to maybe hear some of our next speaker speak on as she kind of goes over one of the clips as well. This is a video by the Critical Grace Theory on TikTok.
Excellence, being used in an unironic way, is just repackaged talented 10th, which Du Bois came up with and then later debunked himself. This happened in the 1900s. So that means both our elders and our ancestors have already litigated this. When they say your crown is bought and paid for, it also means your worries, your troubles. Like, somebody's already probably said it, and it's settled. We have to have a commitment to elevating ourselves and our...
Okay. So I'm gonna pause here. I don't know. You guys still can see the screen, or? Okay.
Yeah, we can see I think it's important to know something important about W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois, he did come up with the term talented. I don't necessarily agree that that's been debunked, because you have to know what the talented 10th is. So for those of our viewers who don't know what the talented 10th is, it's 10% of Black people who finish school, college specifically. And so think about it. For those of y'all who have finished school, right, who finished high school, most of the people that you know that finished high school, Black people didn't go to college, okay? Then the ones that went to college, many of them didn't finish. Most people have about a 2-year college education. So they go up to at least 2 years in college before, for whatever reason, they stop. For most Black people, the reason why they stop is money. It's mostly because of money. You see what I'm saying? And so understanding that talented 10th is the 10% of the Black population who have actually graduated college. And if you go ahead and you Google the percentage of people, and I'm going to look it up while the gentlemen are talking, it's going to be somewhere around 10% of Black folks that graduate college. And that's what the talented 10th is. So it hasn't been debunked. W.E.B. Du Bois died in 1960. He was a very old man because he was actually born in the 1800s. Let's be clear about that, okay? He was born in 1868. So he was damn near 100 years old when he died. So the other thing about W.E.B. Du Bois I think people have to understand is that him and Booker T. Washington had, I think it was Booker T. Washington, were adversarial in their views as it related to what was needed in order to elevate Black people, right? W.E.B. Du Bois is one of the people that attempted to try to debunk the talented 10th theory. So I just wanted to throw that little piece of information out there so that people understood, number one, what the talented 10th is, because there's a lot of people that don't know, and what's really going on with that theory. But I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and speak.
Oh yeah, real quick. So I also was looking up some information in regards to the talented 10th, and one of the founding principles of it was that the talented 10th was considered to be one of the leaderships within the community who are willing to make sacrifices towards the advancement of the community, right? So these are supposed to be individuals who are going to be placed in positions of power, You know what I'm saying? And then they were going to, use their skill set, use their knowledge-based understandings to help further the community. And it's sad because I think one of the things that she said earlier in her statement was, well, the talented tenth has been debunked, right? And I think when you hear that, you can argue it because it's like, well, no, because there may still be some individuals who are in position, but the argument can also be made that, well, are there enough individuals that's in leadership who are doing things to make certain changes for the advancements of the people? And that argument could almost be made to say, some people will say no, some people will say yes. It all depends on what you're looking at and the type of ways that you want to view what sacrifices people have made. There's some people who have made sacrifices by helping people get out of jail. There's some people who have done, camps and sponsored events for individuals. There's some people who kind of commit their time by speaking out to the public and kind of help them understand through advancements and conferences. So there's ways that people in leadership have chosen to do what they do. But I think what he was talking about, and especially in that time frame, was kind of like individuals who will go to school and get their degree, like our law degree, and help make movements towards civil justice, civil rights, right? So that they were helping to try to push for the advancement of people being treated equally and things of that nature. Or, doctors who would get their degrees and come and perform and work within neighborhoods that needed individuals to, come back and help make sure that their neighborhoods had the adequate type of medical treatment that they needed to receive. So those are all things that like when we talk about leaderships in the community, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to school and receive a direct formal training. You could receive a trade and use your trade also in the advancement of the people. But I'm gonna go ahead and move towards the next clip now.
Before you hit play on that, I looked it up. In 2021, the average amount of Black people that graduated from college was 12%. Now, granted, we're not talking about average overall. I mean, in that year. So that talented 10th is every year, it's about 10%. So that was in 2021, 12% of Black people that went to college graduated. And that number is on the rise. It's definitely on the rise, but it's still close to 10%. And I think that it's important to recognize that. So go ahead.
World and see that there is a stratification and that at the bottom of it is always us. Why do you want to be at the head of a pyramid where it's your people that are keeping you? Oh, Jesus. This is probably why I use.
Okay. So I think that was another great point that she just made in this topic, right? And especially one in which when we looked at talking about Black exceptionalism, right? Exceptionalism, right? Because like I think what she's kind of conferring with this is just saying like when you look at mainstream society, it's kind of ran by, corporate America, but in order to kind of make it to the top of that, we see that there's kind of pyramids, there's levels to it, right? There's certain levels where we look at, even when we look at the statistics of who's getting paid what, you know what I'm saying, male, female, by race or whatnot. When we look at the statistics in that way, we kind of can tell what group of people are getting paid at what levels and how each race stack up against each other. And I think what she was saying is, generally, Black people, male or female, are typically towards the bottom of, those categories in a lot of times. So when we look at people who are able to ascend to certain levels of success, it asks like, why would you want to be someone who is at the top of a system that, in general has looked to keep your people down, right? It's almost like she was saying, like, you want to be management of, I don't want to say the plantation, but something in that type of sense. You guys got any thoughts on that?
Yes. Because what we supposed to do, stay at the bottom? That doesn't even make sense. Like, let's take it. Let's go back. Let's go further back than she's talking about. She's talking about, why would you want to be at the top of a society that continues to oppress your people? So that you can continue to find ways to elevate your people from that bottom. That's number one. Number two, us as African people, people that of African descent, members of the diaspora. Africa was once upon a time a dynasty, right? Meaning it was the superpower of the world, right? There were multiple dynasties within the continent of Africa. And to understand that is to understand that that caste system is not something new. Just because the United States is a capitalistic nation and it's run by corporations and all that other stuff, doesn't mean that that caste system, that pyramid that she's talking about, hasn't existed even within our own people, right? And the thing about success, like, you know, we always want to strive to be great. We are great. We are great people, but we always want to be greater. And if you're in a system, in a situation where the system is continuing to oppress your people, one of the greatest things you can do is break that glass ceiling to get at the top. And instead of being a crab in the barrel and continuing to bring your people down, you want to find ways to pull your people up, especially if you made it up there, right? You don't want to do it at the expense of them bringing you back down, but you definitely want to find ways and open lanes for people to be able to come back up with you, so that your people are not the only people at the bottom. Your people are not all at the bottom. Right, you want to be at the top so that you can try to make it look more like a square and less like a triangle. I mean, I don't know if that's ever fully possible, but at the same time, you want to do what you can to elevate your people.
Yeah, I would say, I disagree with her too, because I mean, if you're at the top, then you can make the changes and you can restructure restructure the system. Like we could look at like how the Jewish people handle certain things of their persecution and how people were mistreating them. Yeah, they just infiltrated a lot of important sectors and industries throughout, the country and throughout the world. And now, they're well respected. People can't just get away with mistreating them anyhow. They learned their lessons, from a lot of their persecution. And I think Black people need to take notes and follow a similar playbook in order to, get the respect that they deserve.
Well, I hear respectfully what both y'all saying. I'm gonna have to kindly disagree with a lot of it, and this is why I love these type of conversations, because we finally get the counterpoise, you know what I'm saying, positioning of it all. Because I feel like what y'all saying is rooted in so much privilege, is rooted in so much, and it feels so distant from, the day-to-day people in a sense, right? Because like you were just saying, yeah, she made the argument in regards to speaking how, why would you want to be a part of a system in which, most of your people are behind? And while I agree with you, there's times where you can maybe try to fix things from being within the system, you know what I'm saying? That is very much an approach. But you got to understand too, I feel as though like the first way that you can get to like what Malik was just referencing with like Jewish communities is if you have your own community intact. And the first thing that you will have to do is you will have to teach your community, in my mind, to be able to believe that we're not going to just subscribe to what, we've seen in mainstream or society. We're going to also have our own beliefs and systems that we're going to work towards as well. So while, yes, we may be, like they say like in the Bible, like where I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world, right? So like I'm in corporate America and I'm working, but I'm not of that mindset. I'm not of that type of thing. I'm in, like you just referred to, Malik, a Jewish mindset where it's like, hey, yeah, I might get my dollars in corporate America, but I bring it back to my community. We recycle it and we work within our community to build a stronger economic base, a stronger structure. And then from in there, you know what I'm saying? In turn, we then move as a group to make sure that everybody within the ecosystem is all protected. And I think that's when you kind of get to that level. But you can't do that if you only look at it from the standpoint of saying like, all right, well, you're good. You're good because you're a lawyer up there. You might could pull one or two of us up over here, and you know what I'm saying. You can switch the system up, or you maybe we can bring maybe one or two people over here, and you maybe can help become law registrar. Um, legislators within your town or your country or whatever, your state. You know, bits and pieces of piecemeal approaches are going to be able to help this. And as we see, there's not like you're going to be able to take over and have it and have your own structure. So while I agree, you know, having people in positions in power are helpful, but it's not enough solely in order for it to bring about that change. Because the way that you're going to really be able to make change is if it was something that you can run from the beginning. If it's your own project, if it's your own structure, then you can kind of come in and start it up and have that structure. But you're trying to work within the frame of somebody else's, you know what I'm saying, battlefield, and trying to, I hear what you're saying, turn that triangle to a square. You feel what I'm saying? But if they want that triangle to be that triangle, it might be a up twist, like, you know what I mean, type of picture, but it's not going to be that perfect square where everybody else can kind of get their lane and get their own corners. And that's why I do agree. There are going to be some individuals who are going to be able to get in position. And like you said, when you are in those positions, you should try to reach back and pull somebody up and try to help somebody within your, you know, that you can within your area and within your background so that they can kind of get some of the understanding and with their reason, you know what I'm saying, for everything that you can do and within your powers. But also at the same time, we should understand that just because you are there and just because you do that, that's not enough. We need to have an understanding that we need a communal approach to this and not just a piecemeal one or two people get into a position and that's going to bring us overall as a whole back to, you know what I'm saying, be out from being a underclass.
But I think hold on for just a second. I think that's a misconception. Like, just because people make it to the top doesn't mean that they're at the top by themselves, right? Like, for example, if you take us three, all three of us are lawyers. We all went to law school. We all practice law. We also all decided to create a podcast. And the purpose of the podcast is to uplift our people, right? It's one of the main purposes of our podcast, and to offer different perspective, right? So every single day, we find new and innovative ways to help uplift our people collectively, right? We might do it in different ways, but it's all a collective. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not 5 other podcasters out there trying to do the same thing. You see what I mean? And I think that it's important because I've come across, like, even being on Tagged, I've come across other content creators who do have their own podcast and they have a similar purpose for that. And so I think that understanding that collectively, as a people that continue to grow, that we have to find a way to break the crab in a barrel syndrome. Because based on what she said it sounds like that. It sounds like her ideology is that of Clarence Thomas. Like, you want to just go be a part of a system so you can keep pushing people down. You want to be at the top for you. When in actuality, a majority of us that get up there aren't just trying to be up there for just us. We're up there to try to help other people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree with what you were saying, Sam. Like, I got pushed back on E with the fact that, you know, I don't think we have to totally change the system in this country to be on top. I just think we need to, you know, build up our communities, our families, you know, have a strong foundation and base and hold each other accountable when we, you know, get off code. And I think, you know, we'll be fine from there. But go ahead, you can play the clip.
About is Black exceptionalism. So when you focus like on just one group and you're like, oh, that one group within Black folks will be the ones to make it, what happens is that making it means assimilating upwards into whiteness. And so that's why Black excellence is a farce, because it's all about how can we become more white adjacent, because we'll never be white. But that's the thing. A lot of people think that money and accolades and things that white culture values will get them closer to whiteness. And we know that's not true. So that's why I'm frustrated. Which doesn't mean don't go for it, but be conscious of what it means to go for it, how you go for it, and who loses because you have it.
I don't agree with
All right,
that.
so she said a lot there, but so this is the thing when Black people try to mean well, but they try to get too what's the word I'm searching for? They're trying to be yeah, exactly. She's trying to go too hotel, too pro Pan-Africanism where it's not needed. Like, oh yeah, see, you try to assimilate to the white man to be successful. No, universally, most people deem success in a similar way, especially when we're talking about your career, in terms of accolades, accomplishments. Everybody recognizes people who have accomplishments, people who have financial success, people who have cultural success, people who are recognized in the community that have respect and intellect and competence. Everybody deems that a successful person. No one's going to say, oh, that's an unsuccessful person. So she needs to stop it with that stuff. And plus, of course, we're going to think similar or white adjacent. We've both groups have been a part of this country since about the beginning, right? So it's like, of course, the thinking about success is going to be similar. How we go about it or what has transpired, as far as the government, the rules and all that stuff, that's a different story. But of course, there's going to be a similar thinking there because they're both American people at the end of the day. And we have a lot of similarities. There's differences, but there's a lot of similarities that people don't want to admit. So by her saying assimilating, I mean, no one's trying to assimilate when they're trying to get successful. They're trying to do whatever it takes. But I want to agree with her on one point. You don't need to be like cooning and getting off code and being a treacherous person to your community or a traitor. I agree with that point, but just by you trying to do what it takes to be successful, because you can learn from any group. You can learn from a white person, Asian person, Black person, whatever. You can learn from anybody. You take that knowledge to help benefit yourself and benefit your people. That's what most people do. I mean, there's a global society now, and we do trade amongst each other. And that's the way I think Black people need to look at it. It's not just about assimilating. It's about taking what they know to help improve yourself and help improving your community. Because if a white person knows something that could benefit yourself or your community, you can take that and make it your own and try to progress yourself and your community. They do the same thing. I mean, it's countless times people have been doing that throughout history. So that's where I humbly disagree with her.
Yeah, Malik, I agree with you. A lot of times you and I push back on each other, but today is not one of those days. I wanna also say this. Right. That's also not just historical in the United States. That's historical globally, period. Right? Like, think about, I don't know if you guys ever saw, if anybody has not seen the Nefertiti documentary on Netflix, go watch it. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, it's part of history, of our world history, right? And to understand this, and the point that I'm making isn't necessarily about women. It's just about the fact that you had an African queen, a pharaoh, right? Who ruled her empire. And at the same time, in her empires in Africa, y'all can try to whitewash that all y'all want to. No. Queen Nefertiti, I think it was Nefertiti. Yeah, she was the queen of an African area, right? Because I'm not going to say continent, because it wasn't the whole continent, and it wasn't just one country. It was a whole area, right? Her dynasty, her empire. At the same time, Caesar was ruling Rome, which was European, white. And the thing about the two of them, let's never mind their love affair and the fact that they had babies together and all of that. One of the things that connected them is the fact that they both understood what it meant to rule their respective nations. And the reason why I bring that up is because them being at the top of their own respective pyramids, the goal was ultimately the same for each of them individually. And that was to continue to rule, to protect their nation, and to grow their nation, and to do whatever it is that they had to do for their people, right? And so when you talk about what success looks like, you're talking about the people that are at the top. And if the people at the top, like Caesar, Julius Caesar, and Queen Nefertiti, then you have to understand that the goals were still the same. Success still looked the same for each of them, no matter if they were Black or white. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. If my goal is to be a judge, right? And Bob's goal is to be a judge, and Bob is a white man, guess what? That level of success for me and Bob is the same. Now, granted, we can dive into, pay, what it takes to get there and all that other stuff, because my journey is going to be way different from his, because I'm a Black woman and he's a white man, right? But the goal is the same. The goal to get to that position is the same. Now, what I plan to do in that position may be way different from Bob. Bob might want to be a judge because everybody in his family was a judge. I may want to be a judge because I want to be the change that I want to see in my community, especially too, since the majority of the people that come through the court system look like me. And so at the end of the day, recognizing the purpose for getting to the top, the purpose for that, attaining that level of success and working to be exceptional and set aside and different so that you can try to help your community. And I agree with you, E. We absolutely need to be more unified as a people, right? But how do we do that? We got to find, sometimes doing the pieces of the puzzle is how you start. We always, as Black people, we always got to pick up the pieces, because as soon as we start putting that shit together, somebody tears it down, right? But understanding that and knowing that history and finding ourselves in stronger positions to help prevent that from continuing to happen makes it easier for us as a people. And also, too, trying to teach our people not to tear each other down and be crabs in a barrel. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to find, there's going to have to be people that's going to be set apart. That's just how it is globally. It's just how it is globally. And then try to say we have to assimilate. It's not necessarily about assimilation. It's about growth. And in order to be able to appropriately grow, we have to have the proper education. We have to have the right attitude, and we have to be open to understanding that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Well, with me personally, I do agree with some of the things that y'all was saying, but I'm ultimately disagreeing. I think that y'all really off topic for that. You know what I mean? Generally, I feel like y'all are normally hitting, but today I don't know what y'all on. I really don't.
I don't know what you want.
I'm saying?
I don't know what you.
I really don't. But I hear what y'all saying, and it sounds good and all of that in theory and everything like that, and that's cool. But it ain't it. I'm often. What comes to mind when I'm thinking of this is also too kind of like when Martin made this speech that he said something around he said something along the lines of like, I feel like I'm leading my people into a burning home, and I believe that was more so in reference to him talking about civil rights, us ending segregation, bringing everybody back together, having us all come together, all fine and dandy, no separate but equal type of process. But ultimately understanding that also meant that we wouldn't necessarily have some of the powers that we had. And I'm not necessarily saying that we need to be separated and have our own thing and have our own towns and be like on some Chinatown type of tip, whatever. But
like Black Wall Street.
Right, like a Black Wall Street, if you will. But I do believe that there needs to be presence, and there needs to be spaces, which they are in today's world, where people can, if they look hard enough to find, places where they can support certain companies. But to the point where like you were saying, like I've now kind of put people in positions of thinking that it's okay to try to go achieve and try to make it in these spaces where they will never truly be all the way accepted, and not understanding the power of continuously building their own, continuously, so working together, continuously working to build, you know what I'm saying, build their own type of structure, build their own culture up. And so that's why I look at it all and I say when she says what she says, like it hits to a certain point, because it's at some point you might realize, like, man, you'll gain the world, but you might lose your soul with it, right? Like, so you might get in certain positions where you feel like you got everything that you ever could have imagined, and now you can help whoever you want to help, you know, on whatever level you want to help them on, right? But you realize it still isn't enough to do the greater good of helping out, as you know what I'm saying, helping the people out that you thought you would have been able to when you got to this certain level, right? And it's funny too, because it's like I watched the show called Billions on Showtime, and there's a scene where like this guy was like, oh well, look, I'm gonna try to bring, you know, internet to New York, right? And I'm gonna give it to all of like the citizens, so people who couldn't normally afford to have internet, da da da. Like I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna get this going, and it's really a help. And like there's a scene where he's talking to like or like two people are talking, high net worth individuals, and like the lady was like, "Yo, if I just had this amount of money, like I could create, you know, sustainable living. Like I could create, you know, an ability for people to, you know what I mean, not have to go hunger, like not have to go hungry no more." And he was like, "Look at all of the things," and one of the guys said, "Like, look at all of the things that it's gonna take for you to get that thing in structure, and who you're gonna help, and what your return off of it is gonna be." And you come to realize that ultimately it's never really enough. Like you might think that, like, okay, cool, I could do this, but you'll realize that maybe you're only gonna be able to do it for so long, but you can't really do it for forever, because there's so many other forces that's against, you know what I'm saying, preventing the situation to be like it is, like, or that you're trying to change. And I think that's ultimately what you'll find, is that people that get into higher positions and realize, wow, yeah, you could do something, you can maybe find a little way, it's not going to be enough to be sustainable over time. And I think that's something that happens when you only get into those positions that you guys are referring to see, like, damn, like, yeah, nah, I fought all the way here, but I realized I still don't have all of the power or the juice that I thought I was going to have. You know what I'm saying? Wow, yeah, now I'll do the best that I can and try to pull some people up and try to, you know what I'm saying, appoint some of my people and look out as well as I can. But it ultimately isn't going to be, you know what I'm saying, that factor that you thought it was going to be that could save everything, right? But again, it still doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight. It still doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to achieve. It still doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to aim for, you know, higher goals and try to make yourself the best that you can. So ultimately, I feel like, you know, Black excellence isn't just Black excellence, it's excellence, period. And I think, you know what I'm saying, it can be viewed on any front, on any person. I think, you know, as Cole always says, don't be sleeping on your level. So at whatever level you're at, whatever you can find to make yourself look like you can do more than you were expected to do and more than you thought you can do, then that's Black excellence. And don't let nobody tell you that you got to be the first female president to be Black excellence, you know what I'm saying, or anything of that such. You can be excellent all on your own, doing whatever it is that you need to be trying to do to become the better person that you can be each day. So that was my last little final thoughts.
Yeah, so my final thoughts is I think that the girl and that guy are both mistaken. The reason is because I don't think that they're looking at it from the right lens. I think he is also mistaken. Because when you're talking about Black exceptionalism, it's being exceptional amongst other Black people, right? Yes, some positions are exceptional amongst all people, right? But when you're Black and you're exceptional amongst all people, that still makes you exceptional amongst Black people, especially Black people, right? And I think that although people work really hard to attain whatever level of success that they work to attain, there are certain positions that are looked to for help, right? To help uplift other people, to help carry other people through whatever circumstance it is that they're going through. Whatever it is, whether it be you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, Or if you've been able to attain a certain level of financial success or notoriety, whether it's because you wrote a really great book or you just got money because you're a great business person. Those are all ways of becoming exceptional. The reason why it makes you exceptional is because you are an exception to the rule. And I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating that, because number one, it gives children something to look up to. It lets children know that you too can do that. Because throughout life, especially as Black people, you're going to constantly have other people telling you all the things you cannot do. And to see somebody do the thing that you want to try doing yourself, it gives you more hope. And so the beauty in Black excellence and Black exceptionalism is that not only have you attained a certain level of success, but you have also been able to create an example for somebody else to continue to grow. Even if you look at the talented 10, it was 10% once upon a time. Then in 2021, it was at 12%. Now I think it's higher. So as we continue to go forward in our history and in our lives, our ability to continue to grow and attain a certain levels of success grows amongst our people, like within our population. And although people have this expectation that they're going to see these things happen quickly, it's not going to happen quickly. Our oppression didn't happen quickly. So our rise from oppression is not going to happen quickly. It is a fight every single solitary day. And we have to be ready for that, ready to remember. First of all, we have to remember that we're in a fight. And second of all, remember that we have to continue to fight. You can't give up despite, people tearing us down, whether it be blowing up Black Wall Street or discrediting our leaders, going all the way back to Marcus Garvey and trying to blow up the home of Malcolm X and assassinating our leaders, right? Because it gives us all the ability to have something to look to grow to, and even look to grow to be better than or stronger than or have more of an impact than. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's the beauty in Black excellence, especially too when you're finding yourself in a position to try to unify by helping pull people out as opposed to pushing people down to get up. And I think that a lot of times that gets lost. And it's not about assimilation, because success looks the same regardless of which culture you're from, country you're from, or nationality, whatever it is, the color of your skin, success is going to look the same regardless. And I think that it's important for us to recognize it's not about getting to the top to push people down, it's getting to the top to open doors. And I just think, we should continue as a people, as a whole people, to strive for excellence, for Black excellence, and for Black exceptionalism. Because even though everybody might not make it to be the exception to the rule, at least they know that they came close or they tried, right? And they may have led the way for somebody to even pass them. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's a part of our growth as a people, and also to understanding that the importance of our education and unification as a people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam. I think, I think we can try to do away with Black excellence. I just think you want to just be excellent, period, no matter like whether you're Black or white, whatever the standard is, it's just excellence, like where everybody universally recognizes that's an excellent person, like no matter what group, like, so I think that's the best case scenario. And I think that Black people have done that in the past. I think they can continue to do that, but I think we need to just work on, our foundations, our roots, which is our family and community. I think we can get those right. Other things will start to excel rapidly, and we would see tremendous growth within our community, especially here in the United States. So I think that's the best way to go about it, because, there's nothing wrong with saying exceptional person, but I kind of agree. Get rid of the Black exceptionalism, because, we're all humans, and, we want to see you excel regardless of the standard. We want you to excel at the highest standard, not just a different standard than the highest, because you're exceptional. So you want to be exceptional in every category, everywhere, right? So with that being said, I'll get into the book of the month. which is American Slavery, American Freedom by Edmund S. Morgan. It's a best-selling book. It's about history of African Americans going through slavery during the American Revolution. It takes place in Virginia. That's the bulk of the story. So it's a good historical read. It gives you some different perspectives and aspects of, you know, how things were going down on the plantations. Gives you more insight and details because when you're learning about American history, they try to skim over it. They don't give you enough details. I think that's why people seem so detached from it because, you know, when we're in school, they don't give us enough details there. So this book, it's a long read, but well worth it. Let's see how many pages it is. It's hundreds of pages here. It's like 400 pages plus, but well worth it. And next I want to get into is the Black Business. Black Business of the Month, Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Have a taste of Philly and Atlanta. They have 3 locations going to 4. Very good food. You can check them out at bigdavesway.com. I repeat, you can check them out at bigdaveway.com. So let me get into our motivational minute. Let me pull up our quote real quick. Got it. So here, I'm going to read it for you guys. Pain nourishes courage. You can't be brave if you only had wonderful things happen to you. Mary Tyler Moore. So the reason why I like this quote for this topic is that, you know, in order to be achieve that Black excellence or be an exceptional person, you have to go through pain. And you have to have that courage and bravery to push through that pain in order to achieve that wonderful thing that's destined to happen to you after you can overcome those hurdles. Whether you fail numerous times at something you're trying to do, or you feel like you can't get it, you keep pushing and eventually you'll arrive at the destination that you set yourself on. So I think it was a really good quote that really speaks volumes to exceptionalism and excellence. So with that being said, that's our motivational minute for this episode. I hope everybody's enjoying their Memorial Day weekend. At the time of this recording, it's Memorial Day weekend here. So that's it for me, guys.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to say. Rest in peace, Tina Turner. She's an icon. Rest in peace to her. And if you guys want to if you guys want to tap in with us, if you ever want to be a guest on the show, or if you ever have a topic that you want us to talk about, please feel free to go ahead and message us. You can DM us, comment, whatever, because we like to have company and we love to hear and like you. So yeah, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Also, too, you can catch us obviously here. This is going to post on Saturday. At around 1:30, but also too, you can catch us on Instagram live every Wednesday, right around 8:30 p.m., where you can also participate. Just make sure all of our socials are up there at the end. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and reach out to us. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and all of that good stuff. E, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I want to thank you guys for everything, and I'll see you guys next week. Oh, also rest in peace, Jim Brown.
All right, guys.